I want to secure my Salesforce org. I want to show this data to this user, but I want to hide this data from the another user, but I don't know how to do it. Don't worry, I'll help you out to do that. There are different levels of security which you need to consider to secure your org, and the first one is organization level. And I want to tell you that I am starting a security series in which I am going to discuss all the levels of security, and the first one I have already discussed. There is a link down over here. Just hit that link, go to that video, watch that video and come back to this video, because this video is about the second level, which is object level security. And after this video, I will be creating a video on field level security, which is the third level of security. And then after that video, I will create another video which will be on the fourth level of security, which is record level security. So now let's start with object level security. So let's see what object level security is according to the definition. So in this level of security, we prevent user or group of users from creating, viewing, editing or deleting records of an object by setting permission on that object. What it actually means is that let us take an example, that there is a user John and there is a user Paul in your organization, and what you want is that like there is an object called X object, and what you want is that John should only be able to see the records of this X object, whereas Paul should be able to see the records and he can also edit the records and also he can create the records, but he cannot delete the records of X object, and both cannot delete the records of X object. In that situation, you'll set object level security for both of these users, and in that object level security, you'll define that John will only have like view access on the X object records, whereas Paul can have access of creating, viewing, and editing the records of X object. So after setting object level permission, he'll be John will only be able to see the records of X object, whereas Paul will be able to see, edit and create the records of X object. And to assign or create object level security, we have two things. Let's see what they are. There are two ways of setting object permissions. One is profiles and another one is permission sets. Like using both of these, we can assign object level permissions to different users. So let's see what they are one by one. So let's see what the definition of profiles is. Profile is a collection of settings and permissions that determine which data and features in the platform users have access to. Profiles basically control that what users will be able to do and what they'll be able to see in Salesforce, because every user is assigned to one or other profile, and all the things which a user can access or which a user can see or which a user can do is controlled by its profile only. And profiles have two things. Settings and permissions. Settings determine that what users can see, like which app they can see, which tab they can see, and things like that. And in permissions, we set that what users will be able to do in Salesforce, like which objects record they'll be able to create, which objects record they'll be able to see, and all sorts of things. So profiles is basically a collection of permissions and settings which define that what users will be able to do in the Salesforce platform, because every user is assigned to one or other profile. I am repeating this point just to make sure that you are not missing any of the points. So basically a user will be assigned to a profile, and what this user will be able to do is controlled by this profile, and in this profile we define two things, settings and permissions, and according to them the user will be able to access Salesforce. Like he'll be able to do the things according to the settings and permissions, and he'll be able to see the things according to the settings and permissions on profile. Now let's see what the next point is. Profiles are typically defined by a user's job function. Okay, so as I'm telling you that every user will be assigned to a profile, what that actually means is that there are different set of users in your organization, and in every organization there are different sets of users. Like let's take an example of every company. There are sales executives, there are sales managers, there are vice presidents of sales, and there are marketing executives, marketing managers, and people like different designations. And with different designation or with different job function comes different set of permissions and different sets of settings. So we'll create different profile and assign different profile to different user. According to that, the user will be able to access Salesforce data and also will be able to access or use the Salesforce features. So you have a different job function, you can create a different profile, but it's not necessary every time. Like there comes a situation in which you need to assign same permission to the sales executive and to the sales manager. In that situation, you can create a single profile. You do not need to create two different profiles of one is of sales executive and one is of sales manager. You can create a single profile and assign that single profile to all the sales executives and also the sales manager if the permissions and settings are same for both. Got my point? Okay. And the third point is profiles control object permissions. There are multiple things which profile control. Profile is a very broad topic in terms it controls many things, but we are currently focusing on object level security. So we'll stick to that only, but still I am telling you that what all things can be controlled by a profile. So the list goes on and on. Object permission, field permission, user permission, tab settings. Object permission determine that which objects records they'll be able to create, they'll be able to read, they'll be able to view, and they'll be able to edit or delete, whatever it is. And then the field permission. Yes, field permissions can also be controlled on the profile level only. Then comes user permission. Like what users, unique user permission do they have from other users can also be controlled on profile level. Then comes tab settings. In tab settings, we define that which tab they'll be able to see, which tab they'll not be able to see, which tab's visibility will be default off, which tab's visibility will be default on. All the things we assign over here only. Then comes app settings, which app they'll be able to see, which app will be the default one, and which app they'll not be able to see, all the things. Then comes Apex class access, which Apex class they'll have access to. And then comes Visual Force pages, which Visual Force pages they'll be able to see. And then comes login IP ranges, from which IP range they'll be able to log in into our Salesforce just to make us org more secure. And I have discussed this point in the video organization level security, which I have noted down the link down in the description. Hit that link if you haven't watched that yet. Okay. Then comes record types. You can control record types also on profiles only. Then comes page layouts, and then comes login hours. All the things can be controlled on profile levels. Let's see. How many types of profiles do we have? So we have basically two types of profiles: standard profiles and custom profiles. Anything which is which starts with standard, that means it is available by default in Salesforce at least. Because in Salesforce, everything objects, there are some standard objects, there are some standard page layouts, and there are multiple standard things. Not page layouts, but there are multiple standard things, and all those standard things are the by default things which comes with every Salesforce instance. Same goes with profiles. Standard profiles are the profiles which come by default with every Salesforce instance, and it is actually based on your edition actually. Standard profiles are the profiles which come by default with Salesforce. So here are some of them. First is standard user. Standard user profile is a standard profile, and as the name signifies, and in this standard profile we have permissions to most of, we have view, read and edit permissions on most of the standard objects, but we do not have delete permission, or we do not have all the permissions on all the objects. And then the next profile which comes is read only. It is similar to the standard user profile. It has all the permissions which standard user profile has, but it is restricted to read only. That's it. All the objects on which standard user profiles user will be able to create, edit, and the user on this standard user profile will be able to create records of different standard objects. All those standard objects, the user who is on read only profile will also have the access on all those standard objects, but only restricted to read. They'll not be able to edit the records, or they'll not be able to create the records. Then comes next profiles like marketing user, contract manager and solution manager. These are some permissions, these are some standard profiles which have different permissions, including the permission of standard user. What that means is that marketing user has all the permissions which standard user profile has, but including some additional permissions which are required by a marketing user. And same goes with contract manager, and same goes with solution manager. They have different additional accesses as according to their profiles or according to their job function. Like contract manager will have some more access on the contracts, and solution manager will have some more access on the solutions. It's simply like that. So we are not going to dive deep into it. I'm just explaining that what standard profiles are. And then comes the most important standard profile, which is system administrator. The user who signed up for the developer edition or for the like production org, or the first user of an organization, is basically the one who is assigned the system administrator profile. This is also a standard profile, and this profile, and or you can say the users which are on system administrator profile has the widest access on or you can say widest, I mean all the accesses which a user can have in Salesforce. They can do anything what they want. They can change another user's permissions, another user's profile, and they can do whatever they want to do, whatever is customizable in the Salesforce org. They can customize all the things, and they have all the data access, and that is because of two special permissions, which are view all data and modify all data. These two permissions give access give access to all the things present in Salesforce. View all data gives the access of viewing all the data present in Salesforce, and modify all data gives the access of modifying all the data which is present in Salesforce. This is different from view all and modify all, but view all data and modify all data, if you assign these two permissions to any of the user, to any of the profile, the users on that profile will have access equivalent to a system administrator only. So these are the two special permissions which gives a user or a user on a particular profile access to most of the things on the Salesforce. Got my point? Okay. So let's move on to the next point, which is custom profiles. Custom profiles are made by cloning standard profiles. So why there is a need to create a custom profile when we already have standard profiles? Because of one reason, that is object permission on standard profiles cannot be edited. Yes, we cannot edit the object permissions on standard profiles. They are predefined. We cannot edit it. Even if you are standard, even if you are system administrator, you cannot edit any of the standard profiles, and there's a reason behind it. Because Salesforce doesn't want you to decide each and everything, each and every permission for different types of users. It has given you some set of profiles. You can clone that profile and make a custom profile, and on that custom profile you can edit whatever you want, including the object level permissions. So whenever you want to change some object level permission on for a particular set of users who are assigned to a standard profile, you'll have to create a custom profile by cloning that standard profile, and on that custom profile you'll be able to give object level permissions, different object level permissions. And basically what happens is, in standard profiles, most of the standard profiles already have access to standard objects, but on custom objects they really do not have any access. Most of them, system administrator do have access on custom objects, but most of the standard profiles do not by default have access to custom objects. And as we cannot edit the object permissions on standard profiles, we have to make a custom profile by cloning the standard profile, and in that custom profile we can edit the object level permissions. This is how it actually works. And there's something else also over here. There's a simple note. Every profile is based on user license type, which determines feature of Salesforce users on that profile will have access to. Okay. So basically what happens is, when we create a user, we have to assign a profile. It's compulsory. Whenever you're creating a user, you have to assign a profile which will determine that what features or what access of data that this user will have access to. But there is also one thing which we need to assign to that user, and that is user license. User license actually determines that what features this user will have access to. And you might get confused between both of them, that profiles also control that what features will what features this user will have access to, and user license also controls that. So let me clarify both of these things with you. Let's take an example of Salesforce user license and charter-free user license. In charter-free user license, the user who is assigned to this user license, charter-free user license, will only have access to charter, nothing else in Salesforce. Whereas the user on Salesforce user license will have all the access to all the features and apps and all the things available on that, all the functionalities or capabilities of the Salesforce CRM based on the profiles. So basically, user license defines that what this user will be able to do in Salesforce in terms of features of Salesforce, and then profiles matter. Profiles control that this user do have permission, but we are not allowing him to do this. In that situation, you will restrict that access from profiles. So this is the basic difference between user license and profiles. Now let's see that how we'll create a profile for different users and how we'll set object level permissions on that. Coming up. So now we are gonna see that how profiles work and control the object level security in our Salesforce. So for that, I'll simply create two different profiles, one as an employee and another one as manager. And both of these profiles will have different object level permissions on different on a same object, that is bank account, which is already created in our org earlier. So to create a new profile, I'll simply go to setup and in the quick find box I'll type in profile, and here the profile is. I'll click on profiles. Here you can see these all are most of them are standard profiles and some of them are custom profiles too. So to create a new profile, I'll click over here and I'll select the existing profile as let's say standard user, and then like the name of the profile, like employee profile. I've created a new profile at the name of employee profile and I've clicked save. Now all the standard user permissions or settings will be copied and that will be set on the employee profile. And if I want to edit those permissions, I can simply do that. Like over here, as you can see, there's a new profile created. In this, I can edit whatever I want, like console settings, page layouts, like on which object, which page layout should be assigned to this the user of this profile. And over here, you can set the field level security also, which I'm going to discuss into the next video of this security series. And there's tab settings also, there's record type settings also, and administrative permissions and all sorts of things. So to edit this profile, I'll simply click on edit, and over here I can set that which app should be visible to this user. Like I don't want app launcher to be visible to this user, or community to be visible, or content, but I do want sample console to be visible or something like that. I can simply select these checkbox, whichever apps I want this user to be able to access, and whichever I do not want to, I'll simply uncheck these checkboxes. Now here are connected app accesses. Now tab settings, for which tab you want to set the setting as default on, for which tab you want to set the setting as default off, or for which tab you want to hide it. And these are the administrative permissions which I was talking about earlier also. Here are multiple administrative permissions over here, and these administrative permissions give different permissions to the users assigned to this profile, and these are general user permissions. And over here, as we can see, these are standard object permissions. We can edit the standard object permissions as we want, and there are custom object permissions. There is no access on bank account object on this profile, so I'll simply give the access of read and create to this or let's say read only. I'll simply give access to the employees to see the bank account. They cannot create a new bank account, or they cannot edit a bank account, and they cannot delete the bank account also. So like these are all the permissions, and there are different other custom objects also, like deposits and all. If I want to give any object level permission on them, then I'll click the checkbox over here. Like if I want to give the permission to read the records of deposits object in Salesforce to the users assigned to employee profile, then I'll check this. If I want them to create also, I'll check this. If I want them to edit also, I'll check this. And if I want to delete them also, to allow them to delete the records also, then I'll check this one. And there are two more things: view all and modify all. These permissions I'm going to discuss in record level security, because these are basically related to record level security, because if we check view all, then the record level security gets null and void. The users of this profile will be able to see all the records of this object irrespective of the record level security. So I'm not going to discuss it right now, and same goes with modify all. If I have assigned modify all as a permission, then in that situation, this user will be able to edit all the records of this object. So I'm going to skip this point right now. Currently I just want to give this user an object permission of bank account as read only, not as create, edit or delete. And then if you want to edit any other permission also, over here you can edit and click on save. Okay. And now if you want to create a new profile, go to profiles again, Now click on new profile. Now clone from the employee profile itself and create a manager profile. Okay, over here if I want to give them the object level permission to like read, create and edit the records, then in that situation I'll go to object settings and give it as create, edit and delete also. Whatever permission you want, you can give it over here, and like to whichever object you want, or either it is a standard object or it is a custom object, and then click on save. Now what you can do is you have created two profiles and you have given like different object level permissions on different profile. Now you can go to users like this and assign these profiles to the users you want to. And to assign these profiles to users, just click edit on the user to which you want to give this profile, and over here is the list of profiles. Just select the profile which you want to assign. Like to Paul I want to make him employee, and there's other one also over here who is Mark. To Mark I want to give him manager profile. So over here it is manager profile, and then save. Now Paul will only be able to see the records of bank account, whereas Mark will be able to like read, create, edit, delete the records of bank account object. So this is the basic difference, and this is how you will set object level security on profiles. Now let's get back to the place and let's see what are the important points that we need to consider with the profile. Now as you have understood that how to set object level security on profiles, it's time to see some important points that you need to consider with the profiles. And let's start with the first point, that is every profile should have at least one visible app. Obviously, I mean if there is no app assigned or visible to the user, what that user will do in Salesforce, or like after logging in, what will he do? He should have at least one visible app on like available to that profile so that he can do something in your Salesforce org. Now let's see the second point. If an app is visible, its tab won't show up unless the profile has permissions to view the associated objects. Yes, obviously. If you have like, let's take an example. There's John, and you have assigned XYZ app to that John, like to the John's profile. John will be able to log in and he'll be able to see that XYZ app in the like apps list. But the problem is, if we haven't assigned any of the objects access to that like John's profile, in that situation John will not be able to see any of the tabs over there. If you want the tabs of objects to be shown in that app to John, in that situation you'll have to set object level security or give at least read access on those objects to John's profile. Only after that he'll be able to see the tabs. Doesn't matter what the tab visibility is it default on, default off, whatever it is, and doesn't matter what the like have you given the app permission or not. App permission does not automatically include the object level permission. You have to assign object level permissions like read, create, edit, delete explicitly in order to see the tabs, in order to show the tabs to John on that app. Okay, now let's see the third point. That is, a profile can be assigned to many users, but users can be assigned to only one profile at a time. Yes. This is the point which you need to take care of every time. What this point means is that a profile can be assigned to different users, but a single user can be assigned to a single profile. What that actually means is that if there is a user John can be assigned to a single profile, not to two profiles, but that on that single profile there can be multiple users. Let's take an example. Here there's a profile like sales executive, and there are multiple users who are on sales executive profile. That is applicable, and that is that we can understand. But the reverse is not possible. That like there's John, let's say there's John who is a user in your org, and he's working as a sales executive also and a marketing executive also. He's managing both the things. In that situation, what you will do, you will create two profiles, a marketing profile and a sales profile, like sales executive profile and a marketing executive profile. But you can only assign one of the profiles to this user John. You cannot assign both the profiles. So what will you do, like, in order to give him both the permissions? We'll see we'll see that after this topic of profiles in permission sets, that how we're gonna give the like access of both the users of both the profiles of marketing executive also, or sales executive also, to that user John. But in like like up till now you do not know how to give access of like marketing user, marketing executive or sales executive to that user John, because a single profile can be like a user can be assigned to a single profile. That's it. You need to take care of that. Now let's see the fourth point, which is view all and modify all are not available for ideas, price books, article types and products. Yes, these are the some objects which on which you do not have view all and modify all object level permissions, which we have just seen and like in the demo. So these are not available for these objects, so you need to take care of that. And there is one more point which you need to consider. Basically, not to consider, you need to like think about it. As in like I mean, who can see what profiles permission, like what object permissions do profiles have, and who can edit the object permissions of different profiles. So let's see what those permissions are. So to view object permissions, you need to have access of, or you need to have a permission view, setup and configure on your profile. Like if you have this permission on your profile, you'll be able to see the object permissions for different profiles. And like the other permission is to edit object permissions. If you have both of these permissions, first is manage profiles and permission sets and customize application, then you can edit the object object permissions of different profiles or different users. And that's it about profiles. Now let's see what permission sets are. Now let's start with permission sets by discussing what its definition is. Permission sets are also a collection of settings and permissions that determine which data and features users will have access to. So permission sets are similar to profiles only, first of all, because they are also a collection of settings and permissions which define what features or data the users will have access to. But there is a little twist over here. Let's see what it is. But these are used to extend the access or grant additional access to users without having to modify their existing profile. Yes, permission sets are used to give additional access to users who are assigned to a profile already. Let's take an example. There are 5 sales executives in your organization and they all are assigned to a single profile, which is sales executive profile. There is a user Anthony over here. Anthony needs additional access. Additional access means that not all the sales executive can have access to to this thing or to that thing or to this data or to that data, but Anthony, which is on the sales executive profile only, needs an additional access. In that situation, you'll create a permission set, and that permission set will be assigned to Anthony, so that Anthony will have access to the things like access to the features or data which he has already which he has already access on profile, but he'll be able to do or access different data or different features with which the other 4 people are not able to access using permission sets. What that actually means is that if there is a group of people, and in that group of people you need to assign, like all of them are same, but 1 or 2, or like there is a small set amongst that group that needs additional access, but they will be on the same profile. In that situation, you will create a different permission set with the set of permissions that you want to provide to that small set of people who you want to give additional access, and that permission set will be assigned to those users, so that whatever the access they have on their profile will be there, will stay there only, but they will have additional access just because of the permission sets assigned to them. And the other users on the same profiles will not be able to access, because the permission set access the data which they are, because the permission set is not assigned to them. So whenever you want to restrict whenever you want to give accesses to same group of users, then you'll give the most restrictive access on the profile level. And if you want to grant any additional access, or if you want to extend the access for certain users amongst that group only, in that situation you'll create a permission set and assign that permission set to the user who you need to give additional access to. This is how it actually works. And this additional access you can grant for a certain time duration, or and after that particular time you can get it back from them. by just deleting a simple record of permission set assignment, which I'll tell you in the demo. But like if you like, you can grant additional access for some time, and also if you want to grant this additional access for like as long as possible, then also the same will work. But you need to take care of that whenever there is a same group of people, like the people which are on the same profile, and amongst them a small set of people needs additional access, then you'll use a permission set. And using that permission set, you'll give the additional access of data or the features with which those like small set of users need, and you'll assign that permission set to them, and they'll be able to access all the things, all the data and all the features which are allotted them on the profile level as well as on the permission set. Now let's go to the third point. Permission sets are additive, which means we can't remove a user's existing permission which they have through their profile by assigning a permission set. With less access, we can only add permissions. Yes. Permission sets are additive. They cannot restrict the access, or they cannot remove the access users have through their profile. Let's take an example about it. Okay, let's say there's Anthony. This is the name which comes every time to me when I'm giving an example. But let's take a user Anthony. Anthony on object X has read and create permission, but not edit and delete permission. Okay, and we are creating a permission set on the profile. I'm talking about profile, like Anthony's profile. We have given him the access of read and create, but not edit and delete. So in that situation, Anthony will only be able to create and read the records. Whereas if I create a permission set in which I give edit access and let's say delete access, I am not giving them the create access on that permission set and assigning that permission set to Anthony. In that situation, from permission sets, he does not have access to create. And like if I have given edit, obviously read will be there, but he'll not be able to have the access on create. But he already has create access from the profile level. So permission sets only add the permissions which are given from the profile level. They cannot remove the permissions which the user have on their profile level. So you need to take care of this point. Whenever a user is assigned a permission set, he is only getting additional permissions. No permissions or settings which he has from his profile level are getting removed. That's it. And there are some more points which I'm going to discuss about permission sets. Wait. And let's see what all things permission sets control. So the first thing is object permission. Obviously we can control object permissions or permission sets. Then field permission. Then app settings, which app user can see and which app will be default for a particular user, and which app a user will not be able to see. That we can set in profile levels also. And then user permissions, and then tab settings. Then Visual Force page access, Apex class access, and etc. There are some other things also which we can set on permission sets, like record types also. But this is all we can control in permission sets. Most of the things can be controlled on the profile level, but there are most of the things can be set on permission sets also. But there are some things which can only be set on profile level, not on permission sets. So there's a simple difference between both of them. And next point is permission sets are also based on license type, but it is not compulsory, and once assigned it cannot be changed. Yes. So in profiles, whenever we clone a profile, the new custom profile which gets created has the same license type as of the standard profile which we have cloned. So over there we do not specify license type, but over here when we start creating permission sets, it asks for the license. For which user license you want to create this permission set, so that this permission set will only be able to assigned to the users on that particular user license. But it's not compulsory over here to mention user license each and every time we are creating a permission set. But once you have assigned the user license type, then you cannot change it. And then comes the third point. Third point was the sixth point of permission sets. A user can be assigned to multiple permission sets. Yes, this is the major difference between profiles and permission sets. A single profile can be assigned to multiple users, but a user can be assigned to a single profile. But in permission sets, we can assign a single user multiple permission sets. and a single permission set can be assigned to multiple users. So this is the basic difference. So like let's take an example of Anthony again. Like Anthony is working as a sales executive, as a marketing executive, and also as a support manager. So in that situation, we'll assign any of the profile to Anthony, and then we'll combine like the permissions for the support manager into one permission set and the permissions of a marketing executive into one permission set, and then we'll assign both of those permission sets to Anthony, Anthony the user, and by with the help of those permission sets, he'll be able to access access the data or the features which marketing users are able to access or support managers are able to access, and he already has access to the data or features which sales executives has because of its profile level permissions. So this is all what you need to do with profiles and permission sets. Now let's see that how we are going to create a permission set and assign it to a user. Now I am back with another demo in the same video, and that is of permission sets. In permission sets, what we are going to do is, I'll simply take an example of the bank account object, and what I'll do is, I have recently, like in the previous demo, I have assigned a profile to Paul of employee, and in that profile, I have assigned a permission of read only. I mean, Paul can only read the records of bank account object, but now I want Paul to read, to create and edit the records of bank account object. So in that situation, what will I do? Do I need to create another profile also, in which I can give read, create and edit? Then who will be assigned to the employee profile, or should I edit the employee profile only? If I edit the employee profile, then all other employees will also get access to will also be able to create and edit the records of bank account object. That I really do not want. And if I create a new profile, then how many profiles will I create for different sets of permissions every time? And if I'll assign Paul to manager profile, then he'll be able to read, create and edit, but he'll also be able to delete the records of bank account object. So in that situation, permission sets work very well. In permission sets, what we'll do is, we'll simply create a permission set, and in that permission set, we'll give the permission of edit and create on bank account object, and then assign that permission set to Paul. After assigning that permission set to Paul, Paul will be able to read the records of bank account object from the profiles object level permissions, and also he'll get additional access of creating and editing the records of bank account object just because of the permission sets. So let's first create a permission set, and to create a permission set, I'll simply go to setup, and in the quick find box, I'll type in permission sets, and over here I click on it, and in these permission sets, I'll click on new to create a new permission set, and over here I'll type in the name of permission set, I have written as create edit access to bank account. You can type in the name whatever you want to. If you want to add a description, add to it. If you want the session activated to be required, then check this box. And if you want license for this permission set, you can set it from here. And once you set the license type, though it's not compulsory to set the license type, but once you set a license type, you cannot change it for that permission set. So I'm leaving it as it is and saving the permission set. Now after saving the permission set, a permission set is created, and in this permission sets, I want to edit the object level settings. So for that, I'll go to object settings, and to edit different conditions, different permissions or settings, you can go to these different options. Currently, I'll go to object settings, and in these object settings, I'll go to the object of which I want to change the settings, or permissions, which is bank account. And in bank account object, I'll click on edit, and now I'll give the permission to create and edit the records of bank account object like this, and that's it, nothing much. And if you're not giving access of tab from here, you do not need to worry about it, because permission sets are additive. They'll not hide anything, they'll not hide the tab if we are not giving, if we are not making it visible over here, because it is already visible through the profile level settings. So we'll simply save it, and after saving this permission set, we can assign this permission set to a user who is Paul, and for that we'll click on manage assignments, and in manage assignments we'll add an assignment and we'll select Paul over here, which is on the who is on the employee profile, and assign this permission set to Paul. Permission set create edit access was not assigned to one user. See message below. Done. Oh, what's the problem I'm facing? Just a second, let me check again. I want to assign it to Paul Davidson. Assign. Okay, this user is inactive, so first I need to activate this user. Only then I'll be able to create. Only then I'll be able to add the permission set to it. So for that, I'll go to Paul's user record like this and check the active checkbox over here to make it active. Active and then save. Yeah, this is how it works actually. And now I'll go to permission set and manage assignments. Using that option, I can assign a permission set, or I'll go to Paul Davidson's user record, and below there is a permission set assignments related list. I'll click on edit assignments, and then I'll create edit access to bank account and drag it over here on enabled permission sets, and then I'll click on save. Now the user Paul Davidson will not only be able to see the records of bank account object, but also will be able to create new records and also will be able to edit the existing records. So this is how profiles and permission sets work. Hope you have understood. Now let's get back and let's see what important points you need to consider with permission sets. Now here are some important points that you need to consider with permission sets, and the first one is, in permission set we cannot control page layout assignments. Yes, we can only control page layout assignments in profiles but not in permission sets, but still we can control record types over here, using which we can control the page layouts also, but it only works if you have a record type on that object, otherwise it doesn't work. And the second point is, permission sets with no license selected don't include all possible permission set settings. Yes, if you haven't selected any license type or something like that, there are not all permissions assigned to that permission set or the user to which that permission set is assigned. And that's it about permission sets. Now let's see what is the difference between profiles and permission sets in detail. Now let's see the most important difference between profiles and permission sets. So let's see the first difference. Profiles have most restrictive settings and permissions a user assigned to this profile should have. Obviously, in profiles, you should assign the most restrictive settings. Whereas in permission sets, you extend the access settings and permissions provided by the profile. In profiles, you assign the most restrictive settings the users on that profile should have. But if you want to assign any extra access or additional access or grant additional permissions to the user on that profile, you'll create a permission set. Now let's see what the second point is. A user can have only one profile assigned. Like I have discussed this multiple times in this video, that a single profile, a user can have only a single profile, but it can have more than one permission sets. So there's a bit this is also a difference between profiles and permission sets, that a user can be assigned to a single profile, but a user can have multiple permission sets assigned to it. Next, third. Profiles are restrictive, obviously, because we assign the most restrictive settings, and whereas permission sets are additive because we give additional access with the help of permission sets. Then the fourth one, every user must be assigned to a profile. It's compulsory. We cannot create a user without assigning it to a profile. Whereas in permission sets, it's not necessary for every user to have a permission set. That's it about object level security. Congratulations, you have learned what object level security is, and you have learned what profiles are, and you have learned what permission sets are, and you have also learned that how to control the full access with the help of profiles and permission sets. So what are you waiting for? Hit the link down in the description if you're watching this video on Facebook or LinkedIn, to go to the YouTube channel, to hit subscribe button for weekly videos all related to Salesforce with the Salesforce help. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, just hit the subscribe button and also the bell icon over here to get notification every time a new video gets uploaded. So, see you next week. Until then, bye bye. Take care.